Galapagos tortoises are huge. They can measure 5 feet long and weigh 500 pounds. Now, this is smaller than the largest sea turtles. Leatherbacks can measure 10 feet long and weigh 2,000 pounds. But Galapagos tortoises are the largest land tortoises. Galapagos tortoises are fascinating for so many reasons. First, they are the ones for which the Galapagos Islands are named. Galapago is an old Spanish word for tortoise, and so the islands are named after these tortoises. I was told by one of our excellent tour guides who grew up in the Galapagos Islands that they didn't call Galapagos tortoises as children. The common word was just Galapagos, so that the word for the tortoise and the word for the islands were the same. These tortoises can live well over a century, and in captivity they've lived over 170 years, so they can be ancient individuals. They are important for ecosystems. So on islands where you don't find tortoises, which are herbivores, for example, the cactus plants have softer spines and do not form tree-like trunks. They can kind of grow close to the ground. Whereas on the islands where there are tortoises, then the cactuses have woody trunks and grow taller with larger spines to protect them from these herbivores. There are plants which depend on the Galapagos tortoises for spreading their seeds after they eat fruits and the fruits pass through their digestive systems. So these tortoises are fascinating for many reasons. These tortoises are also noteworthy because young Charles Darwin was amazed by them and even rode on the backs of a few. And the variation which he observed among the Galapagos tortoises helped sow the seeds for his book, The Origin of Species, and his understanding of how all species vary. So they are significant in that way. Tortoises exist in South America, such as these found in Paraguay, which not only am I using because I have photos of them, but this tortoise is also genetically closely related to the Galapagos tortoises, more than most turtles. Somehow, a tortoise got to newly formed volcanic islands in the Galapagos Island archipelago. And there, the Galapagos tortoises evolved by changing over time, and thus they're endemic. Galapagos tortoises are found nowhere else in the world. However, these tortoises don't swim very well. And so as they were able to colonize some islands, not all, but many of them, then changes continued to occur so that one could distinguish between the tortoises on one island versus another. So for example, in this video, note the very different shell of the saddleback species who need to extend their necks to reach vegetation which grows to a taller height. Not all of the populations have this shape. So Darwin became aware that one could distinguish between the tortoises from different islands by the shapes of their shells. Now, there is some debate as to whether we should consider these tortoises to be separate species or subspecies of the same species, but that's okay. Because scientists, they always debate, and that's good. That's how we, get closer to the accurate understanding of things. But also, that's kind of the point. When Darwin visited the islands, it was thought that a species was this constant, immutable thing, that when life appeared on Earth, all of the species were already there, and that they would never change. And now, whether it be Darwin's understanding or modern understanding, we can see that there are variations in the populations of these tortoises. Now, at some point, we can consider these to be different subspecies of the same species, and that at some point we can consider them to be different species. So in other words, the variation which gives rise to a species is just the continuation of the variation which gives rise to different populations and breeds and races within one species. So speciation is a biological process of the accumulated continuation of changes being established in different populations. So these tortoises helped Darwin appreciate that. Finally, these Galapagos tortoises help us understand the need for conservation. So, most of the Galapagos Islands is a protected national park. So these Galapagos tortoises, which you're observing, they are roaming free. They are wild. That's wonderful. That being said, the modern population size of these tortoises, found only in the Galapagos Islands, is only 10% what it once was. So more than 90% of the original population has been lost, including 2 to 3 of the proposed species. The most famous example is that of the Pinta Island species, where only one male was known to have existed and was kept in captivity while the search went on for a female that it could mate with, preferably from Pinta Island and its own species/subspecies, but even other islands. None of the attempted matings were successful, and when this individual, named Lonesome George, died in the year 2012, then the species from Pinta Island became extinct.